Hello, my name is TJ. I'm the operations manager here at MDPro, and today we're going to be going over capnography. CO2 measurement goes by many names, end-tidal CO2, capnography being the primary two. Either way, it's the monitoring of concentration or partial pressure of carbon dioxide in the respiratory gases. A capnograph is most commonly used for patients undergoing anesthesia to ensure that the patient receives enough oxygen throughout the procedure. This is known as sedation. However, they are also used in emergency medicine when a patient receives an endotracheal tube, also known as intubation. So there are two ways to measure CO2, side stream and mainstream. Side stream is typically when a patient has a tube or a nasal cannula right up their nose and measures the expiration that travels down that tube and then to a module off on the side stream. Then there is mainstream, where a module will come out and then connect to an endotracheal tube right at the patient's mouth and get the CO2 readings from the main source, or mainstream. For side stream CO2 modules, we have two options: the internal G2 module or the Philips Respironics low flow side stream module. The G2 series uses a traditional water trap and terminates in a female liver lock, so any generic male liver lock cannula can connect to it. The reason you use a water trap is to pull the condensation out of the patient's breath. You do not want the machine to get waterlogged and damaged, so this is what pulls the water out of the patient's breath. Since this is an internal module, it must be installed in the factory and cannot be added on at a later date. Whereas the low flow module is a plug and play module and can be added on at a later date. It can be used with any of our monitors that have this open yellow CO2 port. This solution allows facilities to adapt to different clinical environments and applications depending on the patient and procedure. The low flow will use a proprietary sampling line which has dehumidification tubing in it, which is basically its water trap to pull out the humidification. The G2 is an option for our entire line, the MDP 4000, 4500, 5500, and 6000, while the low flow is only an option for the 4000 and the 4500. The mainstream option is the Respironics Capnostat 5, which is another plug-and-play module. This can use both disposable and reusable airway adapters or a capnostat mask. This will connect to an intubation tube for intubated patients which are more heavily sedated or need assistance with breathing. For general anesthesia and full sedation, this will require a higher acuity module to monitor the anesthetic gases along with CO2. We partnered with Massimo to provide 3 different options. This includes the IRMA mainstream analyzers and the ISA side stream analyzers, which have the ability to measure CO2, O2, and nitrous oxide, and the 5 primary anesthetic agents: halotherine, enflurane, isoflurane, sevoflurane, and desflurane. These use proprietary sampling lines called NOMO-line to capture moisture. These will have both low humidity and high humidity options depending on the length of the procedure. Regardless of the type of module being used, the disposables will depend on the patient and procedure. There are adult sizes, pediatric, and neonate sizes. If a patient needs O2 administered, there are divided cannulas. If a patient is intubated, they will need an endotracheal tube. There are also T airway adapters to measure side stream while a patient is being intubated. So based upon your facility and their procedures will depend which accessories they will need. So that is everything you need to know for capnography. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call at 888-602-7767, or you can find us online at mdprousa.com.